So I don't think we need origin stories anymore, but I think we were just given one with Man of Steel.
Yeah, and I think you do with like a Moon Knight or an Eternals
Oh,
or
completely.
even
Morbius's entire movie
Thor.
has to be origin story.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
Morbius's movie doesn't need to happen, but
Yeah, but it's going to be here, so
yeah,
yeah,
you
it's
know.
yeah.
out of it.
So it has to, you know, that yeah, it has to be an origin story.
Well, even like Ant-Man needs an origin story too,
Yeah,
Oh
because
for
yeah.
sure,
unless you're a fucking
for sure.
nerd, you don't know where Ant-Man came from. In
Uh-uh.
fact, frankly, even Captain America for
Well, Ant Man
90,
especially needs one because he's not even the original Ant Man, right? Like
no, he's
they
not.
took some
He's the
liberties with.
second Ant-Man. Yeah,
Yeah,
Well, because they
like,
couldn't make
technically third
a
Ant-Man.
hero, like they couldn't make a hero out of a wife beater from the comic books.
yeah.
Well, they could have, but they didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, and frankly, I mean, most of the MCU currently needs an origin story because I
Mhm.
mean, if you were to knock on random regular door on Captain Marvel, they probably won't know
Uh-uh.
the
Oh
origin
no,
story of Captain
absolutely
Marvel.
not.
In fact, I don't even know outside of the X-Men and probably most of them probably from the movies. Like, what nerd would you tap on the shoulder and say, "Tell me the origin story of Hawkeye"? They probably don't know.
Oh no,
No,
absolutely not.
it's the same. Like I feel like you know what? Lost that thought. Never mind.
But it's the same deal. If you made a quality Green Lantern movie, you need a little bit of an origin story. Most people don't know the Green Lantern's
But
background.
I got I got to tell you,
which Green Lantern do?
Exactly, that's it
Are we
too, right?
Gardner? Are we Hal Jordan? Are we
Yeah.
I know that I'm gonna get flack for this, but I totally dug the Green Lantern movie. I enjoyed it 100%.
Even if I'm
Welcome to
watching,
the All Pop No Culture
yeah,
podcast. I'm your host. With me is Kevin and Andy. So, Andy, let's just dive right into it. I'm going to edit that right into the beginning of the show before the
mhm,
Yeah,
music right there. That
mhm.
was so everyone is going to know what you said. So, I'd like to
I mean, just tell me what was wrong with it. Like,
Literally everything.
the
The
let's
suit.
script, the effects, the origin
okay.
story, the acting. Ryan Reynolds was wrong for that part. He did
Yeah,
the best he could with the script he had, but that was they tried to do that origin story and that character, and
he was too much.
it just yeah, it was he was too Ryan Reynolds. It again cemented in my head like if anyone on this planet should play Deadpool now that
Yeah.
it's this dude. Like
You have the same
But
problems with that movie that you have with the most recent Fantastic Four movie.
fuck.
It just wasn't good.
and I actually totally enjoyed the most recent Fantastic Four movie as well.
Oh, you
No, see, okay, and you're and this is coming from a dude that will actually defend the Ben Affleck Daredevil director's cut.
Oh
I had a
no,
buddy, I had a buddy who told me that yes, it's a horrible movie, but if you hate Ben Affleck though, so it doesn't matter. The director's cut though actually is very much almost
I've
like
heard
that
that. I've
Snyder
heard
thing. The director's cut is actually pretty good. It's not fucking great, but it's way better than the
I've
fucking
actually heard that
movie.
many
Like,
times, many times. Yeah, it's funny that seems to be an ongoing problem with DC because they clearly get in the way of their directors.
oh
no,
yeah,
You
they
know,
fuck the
like
directors left and right. But okay, but okay. So just give me a chance to defend myself. So
or hang yourself.
all of the above. Green Lantern. When I watch that movie, I don't end it not enjoying it. So, are there flaws? Are there things that
okay.
could be better?
Let me ask you this real quick.
Okay,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's right on that. Did you enjoy the movie or did you enjoy Ryan Reynolds?
I enjoyed the movie.
Because I'll give you this: Ryan Reynolds is good as Ryan Reynolds in it. He tries to do something with it, and I'm actually like he wasn't bad. I forgot who the female
Blake
was in it.
Lively, where he met his wife.
Yeah, that's right. Um, he was the bright spot of the thing, and even he wasn't that good. That dude.
No, but listen, I enjoyed the movie. It's like watching Sly Stallone and Cliffhanger. Is that the greatest movie in the world? No. But did I like leave the movie and did I enjoy it? I enjoyed it. It was a fun movie. I enjoyed Green Lantern. It was a fun movie. I left it happier than when I entered it. It was a fun movie. Do I think it's like the best DC movie in the world? Do I think it should be canon? Totally not. Do I think if it was canon, would I be hurt about it? No, I wouldn't be hurt about it. If they could figure out how to make it work, I don't. DC's all fucked up anyway. It's even almost silly to even say try to make it work. But I enjoyed it. Fantastic Four. I got to tell you, I didn't watch it for months, and then when it came out on the TV, I watched it, and I watched it thinking to myself, I'm gonna hate this. It's gonna be annoying to me. And I watched it. I'm like, it was fine. I enjoyed it. It was good. In fact, I have posts about it. How we could tie this, years ago. How we could before the multiverse. How we could use his doorway to connect the universes together. Where it made sense.
Just to drive home a point here, on Rotten Tomatoes, the Fantastic Four is a 9%, Green Lantern is a 26%, and Cliffhanger is 67%. So if you're looking at the comparisons you're making, Cliffhanger was basically an Oscar winner, and the other ones.
Opie, if you happen to be listening to this, if you listen to the show, I just would like to apologize for the last 10 years. I understand you now. I get it, dude. I see the world through your eyes. I've now walked about a quarter mile in your shoes. I'm really guessing there. Okay.
You know what, though? This makes me assume that you probably like Independence Day and are excited for Moonfall.
I did enjoy Independence Day, and I want to watch Moonfall. Correct. Well, hold on a second.
I like Independence Day, though. Opie, I like.
It was a popcorn explosion movie.
Totally.
I really actually. I probably like it more because Opie hates it so much.
Yeah.
Then I actually like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. I enjoy Independence Day. It's fun every time it's on. It's just a fun movie. It brings me back to being. I think we were around like 13 years old. At least I was when that came out.
Came out like 95, didn't it?
Later than that. We were high school.
Were we in high school? All I remember was those commercials where they showed the White House blowing up because like they in the trailer, like the commercial trailer on TV, like they didn't pull the punches. They were like, we're going to show you some crazy shit.
It was 96,
and this is what is 96. We were out of high school.
Yep.
Jesus.
So that was a model, dude. Some dude spent like weeks building that White House just so they could blow it up.
I know.
That has always made me laugh as like the world's shittiest job.
Yeah.
And heaven forbid it should fucking blow up wrong.
I know, because you get one shot and that's it.
Yep. But yeah, this all started with us talking about Andy was watching Superman Returns.
Yeah,
which I thoroughly enjoy. It got a bad rap, but I do enjoy that movie.
Is that the Brandon Routh one?
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't hate that.
I just thought it was an homage to the original Superman movies, and that was fine for me. It wasn't.
It's not an homage. It's a continuation of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's
it's a direct continuation of Superman 2.
You know, though, here's the problem. Legit, and I know it's been addressed in the comic books before, but, like, I can't think about Lois Lane having a child without thinking about Kevin Smith and how, like, Brody's whole thing in Mallrats to Superman blow a load like a shotgun. Like, how could he actually impregnate her? Like, it's just the most ridiculous rant.
Yeah.
And I think that for some reason was just so stuck in my head.
Well, that and the biggest problem I have with that movie, besides the weird motivations of Lex Luthor. For as taboo as a human being as he is at this point, Kevin Spacey was a fantastic Lex Luthor. I actually loved his Lex Luthor. But like his reasons and the shit that he was doing wasn't that great. But I hated Lois Lane in that movie. That girl was not Lois Lane.
No, not in Brandon. We're talking Brandon Ralph.
Yeah, I hated her. I like her as an actress and as a person and everything. She was not Lois Lane.
No, she was a garbage Lois Lane, and she looks like she's 12.
Yeah,
like it didn't add up. The things that I didn't like about that that iteration of Superman was that I get that it's a continuation, but if it's a continuation, you have to give some liberties here, right? Because I mean, we're talking like 30 years between the two, and now we have like planes and phones. I don't know. It just some things didn't line up enough for me to make it a sequel or a continuation of the series. They took too many liberties to make it make sense to me. It was fine. Like I said, I enjoyed it. I watched it, but after watching it, it was like clearly that like this is a singular movie. There is not a you can't go further from this. I don't think, at least.
Yeah. I always have a problem with Superman movies too, because you introduce Lex Luthor and you've already introduced like his biggest villain and some of his best villains comic book wise. You have to have a really creative director to translate them to the big screen without them being cheesy. Like, how do you do Brainiac without it being ridiculous? How do you do
Ultron?
Ultron is in the MCU.
No, but that's what I'm saying though. That's like you could take a page for doing Brainiac the way they did Ultron.
Yeah,
in the MCU, like it could you could, I don't want to say riff off of that, but like they proved you could kind of do something like that.
But what was it? What was the recent series where they did Brainiac and they did Lobo too? What
was it Krypton?
What was that? Well, yeah, Krypton. Yeah, yes, Krypton. I loved Krypton. I loved how they did Brainiac.
I didn't watch that one, and I've been meaning to. It's on CW.
You should watch it. It's worth it. It's a good series. They did Brainiac the right way. They did Lobo the right way. It was exceptional. I enjoyed that a lot.
See, like thinking about Lobo is like why I wish the DCEU could get their shit together. Because if they could ever get on a run in like, can you imagine like 6 years down the line, they've made all these other movies, everything's coming together, everything's working, then you fucking drop Lobo and people shit their pants. Like, if it was all done right, that'd be sick, and it just wouldn't work. If they just made a Lobo movie today, you'd be like, whatever.
No, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah,
Lobo movie needs to be like a Deadpool movie. Like, you need to be deep in the universe, and then you drop in a Lobo, and you're like, what the fuck? And it revitalized the whole universe. Like, Lobo is I love Lobo. God, he's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, he just doesn't. Knowing DC, they would just make a Lobo movie, and they would somehow cast Jason Momoa as Lobo, even though he's Aquaman, and then it would be shitty.
Right now, we're gonna pivot, and we're gonna go back and review our weeks because we have a lot to cover this week. So Kevin and you and I had briefly talked about this earlier. I finished up the newest season of Cobra Kai. If you enjoy Cobra Kai, you will love this season because it just goes so far off the rails, and like you said, Kevin, it kind of jumped the shark.
The second that kid fell over the balcony, like as soon as that whole high school fight scene started, I was like, fuck, I can't anymore. Like, it's not that I couldn't watch it. Like, I think I kept watching after that. But like, as soon as that happened, it was like, this is a different show than it was in the beginning. Like,
oh yeah, like, well, Johnny's split and now he's Eagle Fang karate, but they're training with Miyagi-Do karate, and they wind up helping each other. And the All Valley tournament is so cheesy because obviously it doesn't have the budget of the movie, so but
Right,
it's
right.
so bad. They have because they have like they keep having more scenes like the All Valley Karate governing board meeting. It's so fucking bad. But if you're enjoying the series, like I enjoyed it because I knew it was going to be bad. Like
Hmm.
it.
That's the
I
thing
knew
is like
that's where it was. I knew
I
that.
think if I watched the beginning and then where we are without the stuff in between, I'd be like, no fucking way. But at least like you saw that coming. Like they built up to that turn to ridiculous.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but I wouldn't have watched it if it just started that ridiculous. It wouldn't have made it.
No, like it still leans into it. Like it talks about like one of the things they talk about is Peter Cetera in here. Like Daniel is kind of getting uh like sidling up to Miguel a little bit because Miguel's dating Sam, and
Mm-hmm.
so they're talking, and he's got him talking about Peter Cetera and Chicago because of Karate Kid 2.
Yeah.
Um, it's just, I mean, it all ends with like a bet for the karate studio, like who's gonna lose. Super sport. Are you gonna watch it? You
I
know, I'm
might
gonna.
not. I
Okay,
might not.
super spoiler here. So Silver's back from the second one, right?
Hmm.
And uh Kreese, who had taken over Cobra Kai, like calls him to help, and he's kind of, they make he doesn't have his hair in a ponytail, but it's still long, and he's, like he's got this like super younger girlfriend, and they're having like super fancy brunch, and Kreese brings him back to the jungles where he saved him in Nam, and how he owes him, and all this shit. It's so bad, and then he decides it's the dumbest shot, but at the same time you're like, oh my god, this personifies this show in so many ways. You can tell the character has changed into the old Silver when he opens up a bathroom drawer and finds a hair tie, and he pulls his hair back into a ponytail.
That's awesome.
Oh
That's
my god, no,
fantastic.
I'm serious. If you it's so bad it's good. The show leans into it. I think
Oh,
it looks
big
at it
time.
and says we are going to. I think it's hit the point where it knows it's almost a parody of itself
Hmm.
to some degree, and it doesn't shy away from it. And it's like we're just gonna fucking do this, and it makes it funny as fuck to me. But it's so like they keep throwing in all these fun 80s references, and the soundtrack gets funny, and it's just silly, silly shit. And it's this the newest season is you know um is no different.
Yeah, they didn't
And
come back to reality.
yeah, well, so it ends. I'm going to totally super spoiler season for you if you don't watch it. Here's how it ends, because the ending is still the best. So Silver has um Silver has gotten Kreese arrested for beating up this fat guy who called himself Stingray, who was partying with the high school kids and was one of the original Cobra Kais. They got sent to jail and eventually got off now, and he did his time for Cobra Kai. Well, Silver kicked the shit out of him, but then it turns out he told him he's got a rat on. Anyway, Kreese is arrested, and I apologized to Opie earlier, and here I am. It, Johnny is actually chasing Miguel into Mexico because Miguel ran off to find his father. Uh, Silver is now running. I think they won. I honestly I forget. It came down to the Sam, the daughter from Miyagi Do Karate, using Johnny's Eagle Fang karate style, which because Miyagi Do Karate is only for defense. I'm rambling again. Um, just watch it. It's so stupid. And because again, who shows up at the end? Daniel pulls in Chosen from Karate Kid 2 to America to help him refine Miyagi Do karate and make it a both offensive and defensive tool. It's just silly shit, but it's super enjoyable. So watch it. The only other thing of note that I watched this week, I went back on what I said I was going to do. I just felt the lure too much, and I watched all of Vox Machina. so far. If you're an animation fan, if you're a fan of ridiculous, over-the-top adult cartoons like Invincible to some degree, if you're a fan of Critical Role or very familiar with that, you will fucking love it. It's really, really cool. It's funny. The voice acting is amazing.
Yeah.
It feels to some degree it feels like, like it's not what I saw in my head, but it's definitely something I could see in my head listening to Critical Role episodes. Um, it's not. I will say this: it's not for everyone.
You
Just
say
like
that, but it
just
actually it crushed on
it
Rotten
has,
Tomatoes and everything.
yeah.
So I don't. It doesn't feel like it has quite the mass appeal that Arcane did. Um, but at the same time, like I haven't seen a single bad review of it, even from people that have no idea what it's about.
No, it's fucking stellar. Like if you liked Castlevania on Netflix, you'll
Mm-hmm.
like this. You'll fucking love this. But it's not like Castlevania. I'm just saying if you liked it, don't by me saying that think that it's like Castlevania, because it's not. Um, it's fun. There's still a lightness and a humor to it.
Mm-hmm.
It does have an anime style, but um it's more grounded in reality. It's not anime, but there's bits of that style. The animation's really,
Yeah,
really good.
animation's pretty good. Yeah.
Um, but it's worth it. Watch it. I'm really excited to keep seeing the rest of the season. Like it really is well done and super enjoyable. Um, yeah, I think that's about it for me. Oh, the Olympics started. Super duper excited for that. I love the Olympics. I love the Olympics. It's so much fun because all the sports that no one ever gives a shit about, except every 4 years comes out. The Jamaican bobsled team is in there. Uh, we got the curling, like I talked about last week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Olympics time. Moving on from me. Let's Kevin, what have you
Yeah,
watched?
I'll be quick. I have had like I was exhausted all week. I think every night, like 9 o'clock hit, my kids went to bed, and I fell asleep in my chair for 2.5 hours, and then went to bed. So I saw very little. But in talking to when Andrew was tearing me down as a human being and trying to figure out what's wrong with me, um, he asked about movies, and I brought up Empire Records, and then somehow it came up in another conversation, and so I was like, fuck it, I have to watch Empire Records. And that's a movie from 1995, 94, somewhere in there, somewhere in the mid 90s anyways. And man, I gotta say that the movie absolutely still holds up. There is nothing that feels out of place. If you're a fan of it from before, like everything is just as good. You get the whole Rex.
1995.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what that. You get the whole Rex Manning gig. You got everything. Like
It's Rex Manning
it's
Day.
yeah,
I
It's
everything.
celebrate
Rex Manning Day.
celebrate that. It's
Yeah,
coming up actually very soon.
yeah.
I
Say no
celebrate that on
more, money
Facebook
more.
every year.
But yeah, it's just great. It's like it makes me laugh because I've never really cared much for Renee Zellweger as an actress. I know in recent years she's actually kind of come around and did some really good stuff, but I never really cared. But I remember in Empire Records, I was like, that girl's pretty hot, like
Oh yeah.
And then and I've also, if funny enough, never really been a Liv Tyler fan either. I thought she was kind of a little overrated. Like everybody loved Liv Tyler, but that's always been like my issue. Like I never been a huge Angelina Jolie fan because everybody was an Angelina Jolie fan. Like there's a lot of those that once everybody is totally into someone, I'm like,
Right.
okay, then whatever. Um,
Well, though,
but
let's Robin Tunney is in there
mhm,
too. Like
mhm.
she is way
She's
up there
great.
on the rank of like women who have shaved their head for a role on camera and
Yeah,
like
killed it.
to look amaze balls. Like it's
Yeah.
her and Demi Moore in G.I. Jane.
Mhm.
Um, I love this fucking movie.
Yeah, I saw it in high school after it came out on video because I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it at somebody's house. Um, so maybe it was after high school. just because if it came out in '95. But I've seen it a bazillion times since. Like, it's one of those movies that I've seen far too many times, and I would watch it on repeat. Like, if it ended and it was like a marathon on like TNT and they were starting the next one or something, I wouldn't turn away. So yeah, that movie for me was a blast. And then the only other stuff I've watched a couple more episodes of Pivoting. I watched few more episodes of Yellowstone. Me and my kids watched Psych, and then just kind of the usual, stuff flipping through, but nothing too exciting for me.
Yeah. Andy, what has been your viewing pleasure?
You got 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to fill.
2 fucking weeks. So I'll just talk about Empire Records. Like, I'm clearly gonna watch that as I drift off to sleep tonight, because that is one of my favorite. I mean, that's in my. I mean,
it's in my top 10 for sure.
It's in one of my top 10. Like, I have like 3 or 4 top 10s. I mean, clearly we can't put in my actual top 10. It's probably not in my actual top 10. It might be, but if I were to sit down and like actually put down the top 10 movies of all time, I don't know if it would make the top 10. But in my top 10 of those type of movies, it's probably in my top 5 actually of those type of movies. I totally love that. But in the last 2 weeks, as you both know, I've spent some time on Transformers.
Oh yeah, hold on. That's Oh, you know what? Yeah, that was going to be something we were getting to. I was going to have you defend that text that just you put on. Dude, really? Like, other than Bumblebee, really?
So, dude, I will give anybody the first one. I will give you a pass on the first one.
Yes, fun movie. So I'm not gonna defend it, but I'm gonna share with you my opinion of it. So I'm not defending it. I understand there's haters, and I get it. I totally get it. I'm gonna start with Bumblebee because I have a post somewhere on Facebook when I watched Bumblebee for the first time, and I said that it's not. It's a movie. It's a love story about loss and ambiguity and people trying to figure out their life purpose that also happens to have a alien robot in it. It is not a Transformers movie. It's just not. And I love that movie. It is such a powerful movie. I think it's a fantastic flick.
Is it not a Transformers movie because it's good?
No, it's not a Transformers movie because the plot isn't about Transformers. It's just not.
No. It still has. Hold on. We must say this about Bumblebee though, because I've always talked about Bumblebee in hallowed tones. It does have possibly the single worst performance of his career yet. John Cena as the army general.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
That is, if I were to change anything about the movie, I would change that. I would change the John Cena. I would change not only the person, the character, but like the whole. That's the only thing that seems out of place in that movie. That seems so contrived and so rote. It doesn't make sense. Everything else is powerful and emotional, and that just seems like I'm John Cena and I'm gonna do this, and it doesn't make sense or flow with the movie. So yes, I will agree with that to the end of the line. That doesn't make sense. Now, the rest of the Transformers movies, again, I'm not defending them. I understand people don't care for them for any number of reasons, but I would put on one right now and watch it to the end and enjoy it. It's a fun movie. Is it accurate? Is it X, Y, and Z? No. I mean, what was I watched the Revenge of the Fallen, where Spock is the fallen guy. I don't whatever one that is. I don't remember which one that is. but it's goofy. It could have ended. It's a 2.5 hour movie. It could have been 90 minutes easily. But I watched the whole thing. I enjoyed the whole thing. It was fun. Like I said in the text to you guys, like how do they just some of that stuff can't be CGI. Like they're blowing shit up everywhere they can, and I like it. It's fun. It's a fun movie. Is it comic accurate? Is it cartoon accurate? Any of that stuff? No, it's not. But I like it. It's fun. It's a fun movie.
They're just so Michael Bay to me that I lose. Like all the explosions. I don't know how he does it, but all of his explosions always look the same.
They do. They all look the same. They all look the same. But I enjoy that. Like you can't get. It's like, I mean, if you have the same sex for a week, are you annoyed that you had the same sex for the week? Are you happy you had sex the whole week? I mean, it's all good. Like you're not gonna be like, Tuesday was kind of just regular sex. Like it's still sex. It's still, you had a good time. You enjoyed yourself. When I watch Transformers, it's like, yes, it's a good time. I enjoyed it. It was a fun show. I liked it. I leave with a smile on my face. I'm happy.
I get what you're saying. I just think, and I will only speak for myself now, but I know there's others out there like me who, in being at the tail end of Gen X, we weren't old enough to get Star Wars in the theater, so we kind of got some of that mania by proxy. For me, honestly, the Transformers animated movie, because I loved the series on TV. I watched it, like it was
it
one
was
of that and
like
G.I.
every
Joe,
morning,
back to back. That was my jam. And then that movie was so fucking awesome.
Oh yeah,
because I got to see it on the big screen as a little kid. And
I think we talked about it last week with Andrew.
Yeah, it is one of my all-time favorite movies ever. And it's not like a total fanboy thing. I just feel like I get what you're saying about the fun. I totally get that as just an action film. Then in that genre, I get what you mean with that. For me, this series of movies, because of my attachment, and I'm not like some Transformers fanboy, I'm collecting the toys. That's not where I'm at. It's just this movie left an indelible impression on me. So when I got live action Transformers on the big screen, and they weren't even updated as if it was like the cool kind of look for the time, if you will, like it didn't like imitate the other tech examples that are out there and around, and the way, this shiny curve, it's just a whole different thing. And I get that, because you've got to find a way to CGI animate that so that it makes sense. Fine. I just had fundamental problems with all of these movies, the scripting, the stories they tried to tell, that it took me so far out of the whole action part of it that, yeah, there were fun sequences. The ship blew up. Some of the Transformer stuff was cool, but it was the same kind of Michael Bay. All through it. It's the same thing that makes me, like, I get how you feel, because it's how I feel about the Ninja Turtles movies. Like the Ninja Turtles movie that he made, it's crap, but I like, if honestly, if that was on, I didn't hate it.
See, my deal is, if you're gonna compare the Transformers movies to sex, Transformers is like the dildo. It doesn't even have batteries. Like, sure, you can do it yourself all week, but it's just a dildo.
Yeah, but it's
just not good. Now, I will tell you this: I saw the first Transformers movie, I think, twice in the theater, and one of those times was on the IMAX. And so, when you've got a 20-foot tall Megan Fox in her prime, as a young man, the plot no longer mattered. um and the first, like I said, the first one I can forgive. The first one was like, at least for what it was the one driving the whole franchise. It was new. It was, for what it was innovative. The CGI was there, whether you liked it or not. The Transformers actually, one thing they never did in the comics was they stayed whatever size they should have based on what they were. Like in the comics, you had Prime would transform and his trailer would just go. You're like, bro, you forgot your trailer, you know? And so there's a lot of cool stuff in the first one. There's some fucking terrible dialogue. Like, I don't know how the NAACP didn't come down on Michael Bay for writing jazz. Like, that was like some of the worst writing I've ever seen.
And I'm sorry,
but
the Bumblebee, and this did even in the Bumblebee movie. I get why they did it the way they did it. It just, the whole like speaking through the radio thing, like that.
such a played out gag.
I was like, bro, you're like, what are you trying to give us a wink about the Junkions? Is that where you're going? You know,
Like, it just didn't work, because you're talking about these robots that can transform into anything. You've got the whole Matrix of Power thing where it fucking turned a blender into a robot, but you can't fix this one dude's voice box. Like, I mean, come on.
no, I get it. And I guess Andy, I do get what you're saying. I just feel like this is one of those movies, and this is one of those franchises and properties that when I get what I got from it versus
What you wanted from it?
what I wanted from it, it just, I'm not into the Fast and the Furious movies. It's just not my bag. I get why people are into them. I get like the action film serial. I totally get it. If like the Fast and the there's kids that grew up that like Fast and the Furious was their big ass deal when they did it. So those movies, when they come out, they see every single one of them and they fucking love them. And it's like, oh shit, Fast 7, Hobbs and Shaw came out the spin off, and
same deal. Like, I enjoyed the first one, and then it was just the same thing over and over again, and it didn't work anymore. And sometimes if it's what you're going for, if it's what you're into, then I totally get it. Like, it is an action movie. It's cars. They're going fast. There's beautiful people. Like, it's all that stuff. It's just not particularly interesting if you've seen it, 4, 5,
So
6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times.
my 15-year-old upstairs, we probably watch a Fast and the Furious movie probably once a week. I mean, he loves those movies. They're so much fun for him. And I'm with you. Like they don't do anything for me. I enjoy them. They're fun. They're good. They're good. I mean, I don't sit here and like annoyed.
The first two, I'll give Fast and the Furious this. Honestly, the first two, or maybe not the first two, or it's the first one for sure.
1 and 3.
I liked Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah, I know.
Like that was actually pretty good to me. Like that was, and the first one was actually really fun. It was a very, it was a very Point Break on the import tuner circuit, which was kind of hot at that time. So I got that. It's amazing to me that it has branched off to who it's become and who's in it. And I almost had wished I had gotten it on the wheel.
I actually kind of wanted it too. I won't lie. Because I would never watch it otherwise. Like,
yeah, exactly.
If it came on TV and I was like somewhere that I didn't have Netflix, Hulu, like when we used to go up to my wife's grandfather's cabin, like we only had cable, right? Or we only had the dish, so you'd watch whatever you could find. So up there, I watched tons of like Criminal Minds episodes, which is not a show that I regularly watched, but I found out that I kind of like Criminal Minds when it's on, but I would watch something like that in that case. If it was the only thing I could find, I would watch, a few of those in a row. But otherwise, yeah, there was no way I was going to be watching the Fast and the Furious. But I mean, but they're marketed to, really like 16 to 24-year-old males. right? Like that
Yeah.
is like their target audience. And so
So, besides Transformers, I've been watching a lot of epics, like Patriot games, The Patriot, 300, Troy. I watched.
Okay, hold on. Back up a step. Go step by step. You said you watched 300.
Yes.
Good movie, but that's a whole episode unto itself. When we could talk about Sin City, do a whole Frank Miller thing. Anyway, The Patriot, Mel Gibson,
Correct. Yes.
completely underrated fucking movie.
Totally.
Really,
Yeah.
good. Not as good as Braveheart, but it's
yeah,
fun.
it's just American Braveheart, but it was fun.
Like
Okay.
I dug it. Like when he goes ape shit and like hacks those dudes apart with the thing, and his kids see it and everything else. I'm like, and he's just all dripping with blood. I'm like, oh, this is the shit.
I gotta tell you, I can't agree with you that it's less than Braveheart. I mean, Braveheart's an epic in the sense that it's about a nation, and he's the leader of this rebellion. But explain to me why The Patriot is less than Braveheart. I mean,
Braveheart's
The
just a better
Patriot.
movie. It's just a better movie. It's just a better movie.
Totally disagree. I disagree.
No, and you're talking to someone who loves The Patriot. I really like
Yeah.
that movie. It's one of those things like that's why I kind of love having like cable, if you will, still, because I'm like, oh, it's on fucking TNT. Oh, it's The Patriot, sweet. Or it's on fucking Showtime. I'm like, oh, watch The Patriot because I love it. Jason Isaacs is fucking amazing. I forget the guy who plays Cornwallis. Amazing. All of his like Robin Hood's Band of Merry Men. His Ghost Rider guys with him. Amazing. I love it. I don't know, I'm about to tread on holy sacred ground. I enjoy Heath Ledger in this. I usually don't enjoy Heath Ledger. I don't get all the hype on Heath Ledger sometimes, but that's again another show in and of itself. But go ahead. No, Braveheart's a better movie. Forget it. Like I mean, it's just it from soundtrack to score. And again, I love The Patriot. I think Braveheart will always be a better movie, in as much as Jordan will always be better than LeBron. Forget about numbers because he's Jordan. I think Braveheart will always be better than The Patriot because it's fucking Braveheart. I like The Patriot. I get what you're saying.
Here's my struggle with it. I put them on the same level. They're on the same shelf for me. If the TV was on and I had there's only two choices, Braveheart or The Patriot, it'd be what my mood is, what my mood feels like. There's not like, oh, well, clearly I'm going to watch the Braveheart because it's better, or clearly I'm going to watch Patriot because it's better. It's going to be like, do I feel like?
Wait, hold on. Wait, back up a moment. In this choice, are we talking about it's almost like a streaming where all you can do is watch each of them from the beginning, or you turn onto the channel and they come on at the same time?
I like that we're having a Mel Gibson Sophie's Choice right now.
It's a Mel Gibson Sophie's Choice. What are you going to watch?
But here's what I'm saying, because it's honestly for me it's going to be different at different points for me. When if okay, so say I flip it on, right, and the movies are just on a constant loop, okay, and then I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, you know what, The Patriot is at the part where he's about to do the whole ghost thing and kill all the soldiers at the very beginning, and Braveheart is at the part where he's getting married. Bro, I'm going to The Patriot at that point. But then at another time, if it's like, oh, Braveheart is rolling at, defeating the charge, and The Patriot is like when they first get to the town and the daughter won't talk to him, I'm like, I'm going over to Braveheart. I guess it may be the same thing as like you're saying with like your mood. I just think Braveheart more often than not for me will win out. There's just more meat to it. I think it's
there's more
grander.
There's more plots and subplots to The Patriot than there is Braveheart. There's basically in Braveheart there's two maybe 3 subplots. You have Gibson's main theme. You have the Queen's subjugation and trying to figure out how to be a better kingdom. You have the king's thing, but in Patriot there's like 6 subplots in the Patriot. I don't know. It's so funny. We're trying to argue what's a better toast. Like they're all fantastic. It's all the same thing. Like if it comes out of the toast, if it comes out of the toaster and you put enough butter on it, it's the best. Like they're so good.
But what I'm saying though is Braveheart has just the right amount of butter, and like the Patriot has like, bro, if you just put like 2 more swipes on it, that would have been perfect for me. But Braveheart was like that perfect bite of toast where I'm like, and like, yeah.
I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough go. But my point is, I've been watching epics.
Okay.
And I seem to not get enough of them. And there's so many right now on the box. There's so many of them. I mean, there's literally, if you were to go through and look at Netflix and Prime and all of the deliverables, they're full of epics right now. And I've been devouring the epics, and I can't get enough of them. I want to watch more of them. They're so much fun.
Huh. Hey, what do you think of Master and Commander? That whole
I totally enjoy that movie. It seems it's a little silly to me, but I do. That's another epic, and I dig it. I love Russell Crowe in that movie. I love the whole Darwinian slant to it. I love the whole albatross slant to the mythical side of the thing. Like, it's a fun movie. I enjoy it for sure.
So lots of epics. What so far of the ones you've watched has been your favorite?
I really like Troy a lot. Because I think it is imagined, right? It's based on mythology of the time and whatever was written of the time. But it's just fun. It's a fun movie. It's interesting how it's portrayed, how these battles were sometimes fought by thousands of men and sometimes fought by 2. And I like the idea of that. I think, I don't remember, I think it's Brad Pitt who says in the movie, like, why are we all fighting for these people? Let's just us 2 figure it out together. Maybe it's the king who says that, but I really like Troy. 300 is probably a really close second that I've enjoyed. And it's funny because I just watched Last Samurai yesterday, and in Last Samurai, I never realized that they brought up the story of 300 in Last Samurai. In the final battle, where they talk about where Tom Cruise says there's this battle in Greece where there's these people that had this battle and everybody died, but the Persian army ran away because they couldn't understand how 300 people beat 1,000,000. But probably Troy. If I would order them, it'd probably be Troy, 300, Last Samurai, The Patriot, and I did watch Braveheart. I probably put Braveheart in the end of that, and not because you don't agree with it, just because I've seen Braveheart. I mean, fuck, I've seen Braveheart 30 fucking times. I've seen Braveheart so many times it doesn't even make sense.
Yes, I would agree. Exactly what you were saying. Those words and the things. So, Andy,
Yes, sir.
you've defended Transformers. I don't like. I feel like we should get to know you, but I don't know how much more we need to get to know you.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything you could do that can make us respect you at this point.
That's funny. Well, what is the one we did for sure? Ask Andrew. That I remember. What was the first movie you remember seeing in the theater?
Ooh.
Like, what was your first theater going experience?
Wow.
Haven't thought about that one in a while, have you?
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Huh. Man, I don't know that I there's been a lot of drugs between then and now.
Like aspirin?
No, not aspirin at
Your
all.
first movie? I mean, like, that you can remember. You know, like, was it like, like that's again, the Transformers is one of those early movies I remember. Like from when I went to that. I remember going to Gremlins with my grandmother and her falling asleep in that movie. And this was these were all before turning 10.
Maybe like Back to the Future?
That's a fair one.
I remember seeing it. No, you know what? I never saw that in the theater, actually. And the only reason I remember
Really?
the only reason I remember that is because this is such a goofball story. The kid that lived across the street from me on our street in Texas, we one day were sitting up in his little tree fort in the front yard, and my golden retriever was out front and got mounted by a stray black lab in the street and became with puppy because we hadn't had her fixed. So 9 months later, it coincided perfectly, or however long the gestational period was. We wound up giving him one of the puppies for his birthday, and his birthday party was he had a bunch of kids came over, and we watched Back to the Future on VHS at his house.
So I'm fantastic story, Pete. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to.
No, it wasn't. It was a long way to get nowhere, but that's
Yeah, I like that you asked Andy a question about himself and then told a story about yourself. I think that's
what I just did is I figured I'm not going to the movies before 10, probably not, right? So back in now, I mean, I brought my sons and my daughter saw movies, between 5 and 7 for sure.
yeah.
But I'm thinking 10, and I go to Popular Movies in 1987. And I'm looking, and I got Full Metal Jacket. Clearly, my parents aren't taking me to see that, or Predator. But I think Adventures in Babysitting was 1987. Princess Bride is 1987. I can see, I think I saw both of those movies in the theater. Spaceballs in 1987. Batteries Not Included. I totally saw Batteries Not Included in the theater. Like 100%. That was a great movie. Untouchables, not in the theater, but that was in 1987. I think I saw RoboCop in the theaters. That was 1987.
Hold on, pump the brakes. You know what I realize that did you guys know that the Indian dude from Short Circuit is a white guy?
Yes, I did know that.
Isn't that was it Fisher Stevens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's full white.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Fisher Stevens hella white.
It's acid burn. Like that's
Oh, and the Living Daylights.
I never knew that until just like 6 months ago. I never put it together because I haven't watched Short Circuit since like 1987, 88.
Living Daylights. That's James Bond, and that might have been my
Mhm.
first James Bond movie in the theater. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, '87. I think I might have seen that in the theater. Star Trek.
Which one?
Is that the
No,
voyage?
it's
That
just,
was not the voyage
no that
home.
no
Wrath of Khan,
that's
maybe.
no. That's it's an encounter. That's not. That's not a. It's not in the theaters. It's one of their. It's a whatever the Next Generation.
Encounter at Farpoint.
Oh,
Yes, exactly.
the
Yeah,
pilot
the first
episode.
episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just an episode. But
Nerds.
those. Superman, The Quest for Peace. That was '87. Yeah, no, I'm not saying it was a good movie. I'm just saying that was in 1987.
Mhm.
I mean, these are the movies that I would imagine at 10 years old. Those are the things that my parents would have taken me to go see if I wanted to go see a movie. Because I mean, back when we were kids, we weren't going to the movies at 5 and 6 and 7, right?
No, there weren't that many movies that were ever out for us. It was when a big Disney movie came out. Occasionally there'd be some other animated movie, like fucking my parents took us. I remember, again, another early movie I remember seeing was fucking An American Tale. I
Oh,
saw
I
that
love
in the
that movie.
theaters,
Yeah.
you know? Um, Shit like that. But now, I mean, even when we were in high school, I feel like maybe even around that time they were starting to make movies for younger kids based on properties, because I can remember like in 96, 97, maybe a little after that, couldn't have been that much farther after that, taking my little brother to see Jimmy Neutron and they were already kind of putting adult jokes into this for the parents. Like, that is the first time I kind of noticed that. Like, I know there'd been like the Rugrat movie and this and that, but those were all based on other properties, and they weren't, they were, well, no, actually that was along that line of when they first started doing stuff like this and releasing them in theaters so that younger kids became a um marketable audience. So
Yeah, I at because my daughter was born when I was 20. I watched a lot of kids movies in my 20s because I took my daughter to the theater all the time. Because when you have shared custody of your kid, you make the best of the time you got. And so we had a tradition for a long time where from like 6 to probably 10, where every week that I had her, we'd go to a movie.
nice.
Like I saw so many kids movies in the theater, just with her.
I still remember
No.
taking for example, the Jimmy Neutron that's the adult joke they make. Like, they make a joke about peeing in the shower. That is like, but it's not a kids peeing in the shower thing. It's like such an adult observation of it that you're like, huh, interesting.
Kevin, it's so funny. You're so right. I mean, I got divorced from the kid's mom. I mean, my son wasn't even 1 year old when we got divorced,
Mhm.
and my daughter was like 3, and we had them. I had them 50% of the time, but we probably went to go see a movie every weekend for sure,
Mhm.
no matter what. So it's so funny that I know what you're saying, because I did the same exact thing. Always taking my kids. I mean, my daughter still has in her jewelry box the first movie ticket that we went to go see. I mean, if you were to ask her that question, she'd be able to show you the ticket that she went to go see the movie
Yeah.
of. It's so interesting. But yeah, I don't really know. I mean, maybe Short Circuit,
That would
maybe
make sense. Yeah.
maybe there's a Disney movie before that, but not that I would remember.
But Disney wasn't a big deal. Like in the
No, not at
80s,
all.
like it was hard. The Disney movies weren't every single year and all that.
Yeah.
You didn't have, it was The Little Mermaid is what really kicked that trend off. So, and that
No, for
was
sure.
88 or 89, I think. maybe even later than that, maybe 90. But yeah, it Disney wasn't what it is today when we were young.
Speaking of Disney, real quick, sorry, just
No.
So, are you guys watching? Are you guys caught up with Boba Fett or no?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
completely.
yeah.
We can talk. Yeah, you want to talk about Boba Fett for a moment?
Cool. Speaking of Disney,
The
I mean,
Mandalorian.
clearly, yeah,
Yeah.
all of the memes are like Boba Fett lost his show, and he fucking did.
Well, yeah. In the last 2 episodes, he's had literally 1 minute of airtime combined between the 2 episodes.
I'm really annoyed that they've de-aged Hamill and not used
Sebastian
fucking the Winter
Stan.
Soldier. Yeah, I don't know why they're pausing on that. There's no reason to do that. Like unless Sebastian just doesn't want to do it, but
No,
he is a fucking
supposedly
clone
he
for
says
him.
he wants to do it. I don't agree with you. I honestly, I don't mind it at all because the CGI, at least in my opinion, has been
It
good
is until
enough.
it isn't,
Spot
though.
on. It's
Well,
perfect.
yeah.
It's perfect.
It is until it is.
No, I
Every
agree with
now
you.
and then, there's one. It's like that uncanny valley thing where it's just not quite right, and you catch it, and you're just like, "Fuck."
Yeah, and it's
You
always
know?
I feel like it's always with the color of his skin in like a facial expression moment.
But yeah, it's funny. I actually just saw a meme a little while ago that pointed out that one of the best lightsaber moments in Star Wars history is when the Mandalorian stabs himself in the leg with the dark saber because he doesn't fucking understand, like,
Yes.
how it works, and like that is something that has never happened to anybody as far as we've ever seen in the history of Star Wars, right? Like
No.
everybody's just great with a lightsaber, and this dude's fucking tearing his leg up. So.
I did really I like that. So okay, so sorry. I'm gonna go off a little bit here for a second. So they fucking nerfed that whole series, in my opinion. Like the Wookiee with the shoulder pads has like soft tips instead of sharp tips. Like if you're a bounty hunter, you're not gonna have like rounded tips on your shoulders. You're gonna have fucking spikes on your shoulders. Why do you have these rounded fucking? Why have you nerfed it? Like get rid of that shit. If you're a bounty hunter, you want to have fucking spikes. They're gonna take somebody's life away. Not like, oh, I got some rounded tips on my shoulders. This is not a Disney ride. This is supposed to be a hard ass bounty hunter show. I really didn't like that part.
Yeah, I've struggled with a lot of just the Boba Fett stuff. It just hasn't been as exciting as I'd hoped it would be. Like, I don't hate the show, but it kind of took me back to Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back, where you're supposed to be excited about Boba Fett, but I'm kind of not. And I've watched a lot of the Clone Wars. I've watched, a bunch of these shows, so like I know the background of the character. I know all this stuff, and it just has been moderately interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it has been stolen, but it hasn't been completely hijacked by the Mandalorian in one sense. Because yes, that first episode, 2 episodes ago, it was completely. This next episode was really all Grogu and Luke.
Yes,
There was some like Ahsoka and Din kind of thing. I loved the whole lone wolf cub choice thing that he gives him, like that, is straight up, it was cool because Luke was like, you can stay here with me or I can put you to death like your mother. And it like they cliffhanger it right there. So I'm very curious as to what they do with that. Obviously everybody's very curious what they do with that. What is Grogu going to become, a Jedi? Is he going to become a thing? But everybody keeps calling it foreshadowing that they took the droid port out on the Naboo fighter and it's just a clear
Mhm.
glass bubble now.
Yeah, designed specifically because and his intent was to have Grogu in there, like he in his mind he's getting his little buddy back, right? At some
Exactly.
point, and then I think that's kind of it was crapped on by Ahsoka. She's like, but yeah, I think the biggest issue that I have with it is that Boba Fett a lot of the time isn't interesting. It's everything around him that is interesting. Like
Yeah.
the Tusken Raiders were interesting. The Wookiee was interesting. The people at the bar are interesting. Like
I hate
all
to
these
say it,
people.
they were odd to be his hench people, but I did find the weird Vespa gang interesting. Like, I like this that Star Wars has these kind of like almost like cyberpunk
Yes.
modder kids. Like, I thought that was kind of
See,
an
I would be.
interesting kind of twist there, but but as its own separate little thing.
Yeah, I just don't like the brightness of their
that was
stuff.
a
Totally
little
Like
agree.
weird.
that's
Yeah.
what if it looked more run down, or if it looked like it just doesn't look like their equipment fits in the Star Wars
No,
universe. Like it looks
Kevin,
too shiny, too pretty, too new, and
totally
that's the
agree.
problem.
What they were trying to do, in my opinion, with those people was to draw in that audience. That was to draw in an audience that was not to shape the show,
Mhm.
which I struggle with. Again, with nerfing the show, I think they're trying to draw in an audience rather than make a show. They're caring more about who is going to see it rather than who is watching it. Like
Mhm.
I want to see a Boba Fett who is going to kick ass and doesn't even give a shit about the names that he takes. Like that's what I want to see. I don't want to see. I want to see sharp edges on things. I want to see the Mandalorian cut his leg because he doesn't know how to use a lightsaber. Like
Mhm.
I want to see those things. I don't want to see these cyberpunks who are, oh, I'm gonna go and try to chase this guy down in our cute little hyper bikes. That was unnecessary to me. Like if you want to make a show, and don't give a shit about your audience. Make a show and the audience will follow. I feel like they're trying to create an audience rather than make a show and see who follows.
Mhm.
I can understand that. I don't know. I'm just happy with it. This is the thing.
No,
Honestly, I don't even give a shit. I've loved The Mandalorian. I've loved Luke with Grogu. I loved more Ahsoka. The whole Cad Bane thing was
That
off
was
the
dope.
charts.
Yeah, I love that.
You know.
And so I'm a big Stephen King fan. I've read Stephen King since I was in 6th grade, right? And when I didn't really cross my mind for whatever reason before, but when Timothy Oliphant showed up in this episode, I was like, that's the dude that should play the gunslinger if they ever made a fucking live action movie. Like he's so great.
Ooh.
he's so good. He's so
I don't.
good.
I
That'd
don't.
be
You know,
so good.
it's funny because of actually, Kevin, your recommendations. I have yet to see any Dark Tower movie property that's like out there, and I haven't even read the books. I've just heard so many good things about them from people, and that the movies are just so bad.
Well, they've only made the one, and it just didn't line up. Like, so one thing, like people got all pissy because they made the gunslinger black. It was Idris Elba, and I don't care that he was black.
Yeah, that
By
was
all
fine.
means, make a black gunslinger. I don't care about that. But there's a physicality to the gunslinger if you read the books that doesn't like Idris Elba is a big dude.
Yeah,
And
is he
like
supposed to be like long and lean, kind of
yeah,
like
he
that
should be built
quintessential
like fucking
frontier
Chris
cowboy?
Tucker. like he should be built more like Chris Rock than Idris Elba. And so or like Timothy Oliphant. Like you look at Timothy Oliphant, like he's long, lean.
Yeah.
He walks like a cowboy. And so
Right.
the movie just didn't really fly. And I think because one of the main characters in that is a kid, is a like 11, 12-year-old kid, I think the only way to make it right, because you couldn't do it in a short span of time, would be to make it animated. You'd have to do an adult animated series.
Yeah,
Because if you cast because the kid is 12 or 13 years old, and 12 and 13, if you tried to make a show, even if it went 4 seasons, 12 to 16 is a
Yeah.
monumental difference. Like, you can't make a 16-year-old look like a 12-year-old. I mean, you can if you're lucky, right? If you get lucky casting somebody and they just happen to not grow, but the odds are pretty good that somebody's going to sprout up, right?
Yeah.
So
The I wish. Oh man, if I I'm gonna say some things that might make you guys angry right now. I'm not sure, but
Just say it.
I think that I would probably, if there was a Stephen King universe similar to the Marvel universe or even the DC universe, I think that I would prefer a Stephen King universe over either one of them. Like, if there was a true It and Dark Tower and Shining, like if there was a true universe that was connected together, because all his books are,
not all of them,
according to
but a good handful of them do.
more than a handful,
Yeah.
more than a handful.
All take place up there in Maine.
No,
Yes.
there's a really great chart that shows you, because the Dark Tower is the central, like, linchpin to, like, King's, like, universe in his head, and not necessarily every book leads directly into that. But if you there's a great chart that kind of shows which stories lead into which other stories and how they all kind of weave together, and they find their way back to the tower eventually. So, they're not always in the same universe, but especially lately, he's been writing stories that tie into previous stories and things like that. Like, they were working on a Talisman movie for a while, and I don't know what happened to that, because that was unfortunate, because that was going to be super good. And then he just did what's the sequel to The Shining? Why am I totally blanking on the name?
Mr. Bones, the bone.
Doctor Sleep.
There
Dr.
it is.
Sleep. There you go. Totally blanked out. But that movie, the movie was great because it bridged actually the gap between the original Shining movie and the book. Like, they kind of weaved their way into making a sequel to both of those, because they're not the same story. The Shining, the movie, is very different than the Shining, the book. But
100%.
the movie sequel to the movie version of Doctor Sleep kind of wedged itself right in between, and was a reasonable successor to both of those.
Yeah. Man, yeah. If I had to pick, that's a hard choice. But I mean, Kevin, I would just, from what you've said, clearly you're the bigger fan when it comes to Stephen King. I love his books. I've read many of them. I've watched all of the movies associated with the content.
Mm-hmm.
But can you imagine if there was a Kevin Feige in charge of the Stephen King universe?
It would be Mike Flanagan. It would be the guy that did the Haunting movies. He is actually the one that directed Doctor Sleep. But I think he would be the guy that would put that stuff together. But I don't think that he's interested in doing that.
No. So let's just pretend like he was. Like,
yeah.
If there was, can you imagine like a Stephen King universe of all those books? How incredible that would. I mean, I dare say that would probably be more enticing than these comic book movies.
It could be, yeah. The only reason it doesn't work is because you can't appeal to the kids. You can't appeal to the family element in most of them, right?
Yeah, but
no one's taking their 8-year-old to see Pet Sematary.
That's totally true. That's totally true.
Yeah.
But these comic book movies were written for us, and they just happened. and they
For
just
sure.
happened to work for the younger generation that didn't read the comic books.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I would challenge what you just said with, yeah, you're right. You're not going to get your 8-year-old who's playing baseball on the field to go see, a Dark Tower movie for sure. They're going to go see Ant-Man over that for sure.
Mhm.
But I would, if I was a betting man, and I am, I'd be willing to bet that you could probably get enough people to go see a Stephen King universe movie,
Mhm.
um, alongside an Ant-Man epic as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
See, I think
what Stephen King needs is he needs, or for his movies, is they would need somebody in the middle that is kind of regulating the quality, because there's always been good Stephen King movies and there's always been some really bad ones. And one of the reasons is that he really doesn't tell people no. He doesn't have a hand in the movies when they get made.
you're right.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah, he's there's been at least a few movies that he's sold the rights to, like, film students for $1. He's just like, go ahead, go make the movie, and do what you want with it. Um, the only one that he's ever hated was The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
He
I love
hates.
The Shining.
I do too, but I've read the book a few times and I understand why he hates it, because it's very, very different.
Yeah,
The book isn't about ghosts, about alcoholism. It's about, his addiction and his spiral, and the book is all about a haunted hotel. And if you believe the hype, it's about the moon landing was fake. Uh, but you know, so he doesn't. But he, generally speaking, doesn't have a hand in the movies themselves. As far as scripts go, I think the only one that he ever really wrote was Storm of the Century, which was a TV miniseries. He might have written Rose Red, um, and then he did another TV series, um, something about a Kingdom Hospital, which was
Yeah.
actually
yeah.
a remake of a I think it was Swedish show. Um,
It is interesting that the movies that most people, other than like, the Cujas and the Carries in recent times, I don't know. Anyway, at least that I've always connected with have been more of his non-horror movies, like Stand By Me, Shawshank.
mhm.
Um, that work by him has always been way more interesting than somebody. And I liked Stephen King for a while. I read, like I said, it was the first horror book and the first Stephen King book I read, and I was 12 years old. And I remember that book scared the shit out of me. And I read Needful Things, and
Mhm.
I read all the short story anthologies. I did, all the earlier books and stuff.
Well, the struggle with horror is that it's always scarier in your head than it is on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, really, really difficult, in my opinion, to make a really good horror movie. The best horror movies are the ones that are kind of brooding and slow and kind of eat into you before they get scary. Jump scares are kind of old school now. Like they don't really work. They're fine, they're fun, but if you're talking about something that's actually scary, it needs to get inside you.
Yeah. Well, I think it was in the group text. Somebody was asking. It could have been on a Facebook post, but I didn't see it. But my daughter went and saw Scream
Mm.
in the theaters here, and she absolutely loved it. Like
Mhm.
like a bunch of her friends had gotten together and watched all the other movies before this one, and so this was their big. Oh, it's come out. We're gonna go see it. It's very interesting, and she's not a scary movie girl. It just happened to be this slumber party they did the first movies. Um, so that to me, and she said it's all jump scares for the most part,
Mhm.
which is Scream, and those work, and I find those interesting and fun.
Yeah,
Um,
because they make a good whodunit. You see, you don't, at least especially in the first one, you don't know who the person is. You know it's somebody close to them and all that, but
yeah,
you don't know who it is.
Yeah, it's yeah. I forgot where we were, frankly. Oh no, we were talking about Stephen King.
Well, to go back to the beginning. You asked me what the first movie that I ever saw was, and that's how we traveled from there to here.
Oh yeah. Oh no, you were talking about like having one person to kind of pull it all together that way. I think Stephen King's all his books and movies, or all the books, all those stories could be told and should be told actually, like on a Netflix or a something like that. And we kind of see that, and I see it almost done in the same way that Netflix did those first Marvel shows, the Daredevil, the
Totally.
because they all interconnect together, and so you could let other people work on it and have their ideas, and then you bring it back all the way around to the Defenders. And plus, this also lets him work in a very long form, which is what I mean, let's be real. Stephen King, and I don't know a lot of other horror writers, but I mean, Dean Koontz books don't look that thick to me.
Depends on the book, and he's really not horror. He's more suspense,
Is he a
and
suspense
and
thriller?
he's for me has kind of lost his touch. I know he's still a bestseller and all that, but I haven't liked anything recent of his. But if you read Watchers or Lightning or any of those old ones, those books are fantastic.
I yeah no I just I yeah no um I just think it would lend itself to that format because one of my it's so hard, like you even brought up a perfect point about Stephen King and his movies. There, because he doesn't say no to people, they get the quality range even just through time has been very, very interesting. And it's also been very interesting to see what products people have chosen to make. Like, you look at the time frame that some of the stuff came out, and the stories that they made for Cat's Eye.
Mm-hmm.
That they picked those three. They picked Quitters Inc. and they, the ones they picked were very, very interesting. That's what they did. Now, all three of those, that's one where it's actually very good. I think that's an underrated Stephen King movie, or movie based on Stephen King products. And then did you ever see, Kevin, TNT did Nightmares and Dreamscapes? But
I remember they did it. I didn't watch it.
So actually, it was pretty good. The only reason I watched it at all was because even though they called it Nightmares and Dreamscapes, they took a lot of stories from other anthologies, and they did. I think it was called Battlefront, and it was one of my favorite short stories ever done. It's a tale of an assassin. He goes home. He's just completed a job. He gets home, and there's like a little footlocker waiting for him at home, and he opens it up, and it's the Green Army Men.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Green Army Men come to life and attack him and try to kill him, but they've got like a fucking helicopter. They've got all this shit, and it's a great story. It ends up that, like, and he misses the piece of paper when he opens up the box because it says it comes with an atomic bomb. So in the end, they just blow up his entire apartment, and it's got William Hurt as the assassin, and it's really good. It's not what I expected. Um, but anyway, off the rails. Oh, good God! Look at the time.
Yes, it is not early, or it is early.
So that's it. Nothing. You don't want to know my sign, my when I lost my virginity.
Okay, sure.
Like
when did you first lay with a lover?
I was 17.
Okay.
I was a junior in high school.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Kevin.
It's a good name. It's a strong name. It sounds like a pitcher, not a catcher, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, Kevins are definitely tops in the gay community.
Yeah, for sure.
No. I didn't.
I did meet a
didn't-
sloppy party bottom once named Kavan.
Oh shit!
Oh, that is one thing. Not to go all the way back to the very beginning of the show, but you know what I watched today, randomly enough, with the 9-year-old child, of
Hmm.
all people? All 3 Jackass movies. I because the 9-year-old was there, I fast forwarded through a lot of material that
Mhm.
that I forgot was in these movies, that I was like, oh yeah, because they never stuck with me the same way. Like she loves the fail videos and things like
Mhm.
that. So
Mhm.
like people getting like crashing into things, she loves. She thinks shit's hilarious. So yeah, I watched that with a 9-year-old today, because gearing up, because I think I'll be going. Actually, by the time this drops, I'll have seen Jackass 4. Hopefully, I think I'm going Tuesday night. Just randomly, it'll be fun to see that in a theater. It's a good a time as any to call it a sleepy night.
Yeah.
Uh,
We got plus everybody's got to sleep, man. You got 2 episodes of Lost to watch and
I
write down,
know. I know.
learn.
Lots of Olympics. Oh, Lost is so good. Christ, like, subscribe, follow, listen, watch. I'm
TikTok.
so sorry, Obi. I'm so sorry. Have a week.
Mhm.
I totally enjoyed Superman Returns. I mean, I thought it was a good installment of it. I thought it was cheesy. I thought it was very old-fashioned comic booky, but I liked it. It was good. Um, and I liked Brendan Routh as Superman. Like, I didn't dislike him at all. It was fine. It was a fine interpretation of the genre before we got to the genre we are in now. I mean, I
Yeah.
think Man of Steel is by far, hands down, 1,000,000% better. I mean, not even that. I mean, it's not. You can't even say it's better. It's not in the same genre. It's not in the same category. It's a different type of movie. Where I feel
Yeah, they're really different because I still think that while I love Cavill as Superman, I don't think his Superman is the Superman that I prefer. Even though I do like him, and I like Man of Steel probably more than I like Superman Returns. Although I really enjoy Superman Returns. Um, it's just Man of Steel as a character goes. And again, I really like the movies, and they're probably my favorite Superman movies right now. But the Man of Steel kind of films, he's a little too dark as Superman for me. I prefer Superman a little lighter, a little more like he is on Superman and Lois than on Man of Steel.
I get that. I understand that, especially if you compare it to the comics, where I mean, he is red, white, and blue. So to have like a darker Man of Steel is a different is a different type of character. But I totally agree with you. Um, there's so many caveats when it comes to Superman. Like, what do we want? Like, even into your discussion about how, Batman kills now. Like, in my retort was, I mean, Batman's been killing for a long time, just not like on purpose. Um, and both things I think are true. Like, I feel like Henry Cavill's Superman is darker. It's more gritty. It's more realistic, I suppose. I don't know. Where Brendan Routh is more idealized. It's more comic booky. It's more, well, even Christopher Reeves is all of those things too.
Yeah,
Where
for sure. But see, that's
Cavill's
not like,
more like,
I don't know if it's because that's what I grew up on, but I still think like Christopher Reeve is the standard you have to live up to.
Oh, for
when
sure.
you're doing Superman. It's just hard not to. But I also, grew up reading the comics that, in my office, I have an autographed Death of Superman comic, signed by Siegel and Schuster. Like, Superman's my dude.
So are you really DC before Marvel?
No, well, I don't know. I haven't gone out and bought comic books in a long time for myself, so I don't know what my opinion would be these days. But I actually, back in the day with comics, might have been more DC than Marvel.
Really?
I was buying comics back when you had 52. There was some of the artists that were doing DC at the time I was bigger fans of than the artists doing Marvel. My middle son, his first name is Turner. He's named after Michael Turner, who did a bunch of covers around the time of the original 52 and some great Justice League stuff and stuff like that. And then he started his own comic company called Aspen. And then he passed away of cancer at like 32, like he was hell young. But he was awesome. But yeah, and I with the comics, because there's just so much shit going on, I really was more of a fan of the artists necessarily than the stories and the characters, because they're all pretty close when you get down to it, I mean, I've got like 10 long boxes of comics down in my basement right now. Like, I got a ton of comics down there. But I have the first appearance of Carnage lying around here somewhere.
Wow.
I've got
I love it.
some neat stuff down there. But I have, for a while, I had almost every Superman comic from the Death of Superman run on. So, but see, that's why I think my biggest problem with the Batman movies. I'm just not really excited for this next one, because I'm tired of the ultra dark Batman movie. Like, it's like they keep just going darker and darker and darker, and I want to see something that's actually more like the character than what they've done.
Well, okay, so I want to stop you there. I totally want to stop you there. So I find that completely interesting to me.
Well, do you know what the second longest running comic book series in history is?
No.
Behind Action Comics, which is Superman, is Detective Comics. Detective Comics is Batman.
So you want Batman to be, like, for lack of a better way to define it, more like bam pow kapow?
No. I just want his only solution in the last 6 movies that he's been in has been to beat the shit out of stuff. Like, that's his only answer.
No, that's been all. Not the last 6. It's been all the movies.
That's
name
what
a
I'm
movie
saying.
he hasn't. Yeah, they've all been that.
But that's not what he is in the comic books. He's a problem solver. He's a leader. He's a detective. He's the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah,
and
but
he's never in none of the movies, other than there's moments in Keaton's Batman where he comes across as like thinking, like the thinking man's Batman. He's never the smartest guy in the room. And that's the thing with the comics, is that it's just kick ass first and then deal with whatever's next later.
Man, I don't know that I can agree with you. I will say that he does kick ass and ask questions later. But whether or not he's the smartest man in the room, I don't know that I can agree with that statement.
I don't know. Name one time that he is. Like when is he ever
I
working out a
mean,
problem and like figuring so like other than maybe the Dark Knight when he's trying to figure out what the Joker's doing, but then he still ends up in a
well,
room with him and beats the shit out of him. Like
but
as
that's
a person that's read Batman comics since I was like 8, that's not what Batman's all about.
He's the world's
not
greatest
even,
detective.
but
Exactly, and
even,
he has never been in a movie. Never in
but
a movie has
even,
Batman been a detective at all.
You know, Michael
Period.
Keaton.
Like at all.
well,
Michael Keaton was the closest we got,
Yep.
showing some of the the caginess of Bruce Wayne when he does the whole metal tray, Clint Eastwood bullet
Right.
stopping deal,
Right.
right?
Or
That's
when he's out in front of City Hall and everybody's getting shot. He's just standing up there like cool as ice.
yeah,
Like that's all great, but that's it. Like he's never ever ever that guy. He has the money and he has the toys and he punches things, and that's Batman in the movies.
yeah. Christian Bale was always like his Bruce Wayne was the billionaire playboy side of it. It wasn't the detective side of it. Um,
I give Bale's Batman a little bit of a pass because you're looking at year one. That was
yeah,
Batman becoming Batman. So he maybe doesn't have all the things that he has. Uh, Pattinson's Batman, I don't know where he falls like in kind of the Batman timeline. But I swear to God, if it's an origin story, I'm going to be pissed.
no, apparently they no
no,
origin
no
story.
origins,
They're
no
taking a
origins.
page.
Good,
They're taking a page from what they did with Spider-Man, and
good,
Yeah,
they're not even going to bother.
good. They have to. They have to make it good. It doesn't work otherwise. You can't do another Batman origin story. It's just like
You don't need it. You don't need.
Man of Steel still did more than most, but you don't need it with Superman either. Like
Okay.
so
When,
watch the first episode of Superman and Lois, and that is all the Superman intro you need these
no,
days. We all know
no,
where he came from.
exactly. Everyone knows the mythology on Superman already, right?
And yeah,
And Spider-Man, and
and Batman.
that's and Batman. Those have all been done a billion times. You don't need them anymore. I think and I think this is what I didn't like about Man of Steel was that be, because they were making Zod and the whole, Kryptonian force the bad guy for the movie, they had to give you that shit ton of background still
Mm-hmm.
on Krypton and all that. Like it was essential. It was a massive chunk of the story.
Yeah.
Like in the Richard Donner Superman 2, when Zod and them come down, it's different because they just show up because they escaped the whatchamadicker,
Phantom Zone.
the Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
And now, Deep Thoughts by Andy.
and again, attached to the epics, I will say, and I'm gonna give me a second to tie this together. I'm also watching 1883 and Yellowstone,
Okay.
and 1883 is 4 people ago.
Mhm.
It's our parents, our grandparents, great grandparents. Some of us, it's just our great grandparents, and then the rest of us, it's our great great grandparents, right? But Master and Commander is our great 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 grandparents. I mean, Master and Commander is 5 people ago, sometimes 6. I mean, that's not that long ago. It's just crazy to think about how close in time those times are. And then if you compare what we're seeing on the screen, which isn't accurate clearly, but is it inaccurate as well to what we have today? I mean, again, we're communicating. I have AirPods in, I'm on a MacBook, I'm on my cell phone, I'm all these things. And then, like 4 people ago, they were in fucking wagons with shotguns trying to defend themselves as they cross the plains. It's just goofy. It's crazy. And I think that's why I'm so into these epics right now, is because I'm just baffled when I think about time, and I look at 1883 and I look at today. It's just goofy. You know, you all two of you know, I turned 45 last week on the 24th. So 45 years ago, 1977, I was born. Kevin, you were born shortly after me.
No, before.
Before you were before me? Yeah, you're right. You're like a week before
like
me.
2 weeks, 10 days.
Yeah. Now, for whatever reason, just goofing around, I thought to myself, in 1977, what year was a 45-year-old born? That's 1932.
Mm-hmm.
So in 77, when I was born, a 45-year-old was born in 1932. That's fucking crazy. That's crazy. So in from 32 to 77, think of the technology that changed. I mean, it can't even be described. I mean, if you were to ask somebody born in 1930, well, give them 10 years. They're born 32. Let's give them to 42. So they're 10 years old. Tell us the craziest thing that could possibly happen in the next, 35 years. They wouldn't describe this, right? So it gives me pause to think about, now that I'm 45, somebody born in 2022, what's going to be in 45 years from now? I mean, what we're doing now is going to seem like horse and buggy. Anyways, that's why I think I've been
Do you have
paused.
a mustache?
Like right now?
Yeah.
I just haven't shaved in a couple of days.
Oh no, I think it just must be the shadowing. Oh no, yeah, you have. Oh no, it's just the shadow and where you're sitting.
Sorry. I haven't shaved in a couple of days. I'm all white down here, but my mustache is still dark. I just haven't shaved since like Wednesday.
Okay, just with the lighting and the way your room is, it looks like you have a very thick, like, if we put like a leather police officer hat on you, you look like you'd be dancing at the Blue Oyster Bar.
I mean, I do that
in the Police Academy movies.
Yeah, that's tomorrow night.
Sweat.
But yeah, epics, and trying to figure out, life, what it'll look like in 45 years from now, I think is what's been on my mind.